Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And in this one, I'm going to be going over some of the new and exciting Azerite traits and trinkets that are coming with the raid, Dazbralor, I believe, if I pronounced that right, on Tuesday. It is also the start of Season 2 for PvP and Mythic Plus, which means we'll be upgrading all of our gear, and these new traits will go along with that gear. The first thing you may have noticed looking at my game here is that they've added an extra ring on the Azerite traits. Now that allows you more traits in general, and also almost guarantees that it's impossible for you to never have 3 of your best in slot trait, which is obviously a complaint that I think a lot of players have had throughout the first season, is that it felt really up to chance as to whether or not you would actually be able to get your best in slot trait that you really wanted, or a certain customizable option that you would have liked to have. On top of that, they are also increasing the number of Azerite pieces that you get through the conquest cap from being able to pick between 3 of a piece. You can pick between 4, which will open up the window even more in terms of being able to customize your Azerites on a deterministic and weekly pattern. And also with the introduction of the titanium residuum, that is going to allow you to accumulate from doing Mythic Plus or obliterating any Azerite pieces of gear that you don't want to get currency to then target the piece that you would like. With all of these extra additions, it should be a lot easier and more accessible to get the Azerite traits that you really want to get. But aside from that, let's get to the more exciting part. The new Azerite traits, what I think about them, and where they're going to fit in regards to the meta. So the first Azerite trait, which I got to test firsthand, is this one right here, and it is called Bonded Souls. And basically your healing or your attacks, just playing the game, has a chance to draw a bond between you and your nearest partner, causing it to heal back and forth. And it's a very potent heal for melee cleaves in particular. So if you're playing with Death Knights, Warriors, Rogues, Ferals, Ret Paladins, Windwalkers, and you're culminating them all together, if the 2 melee classes have this, it does a lot of healing, 30 to 40% of their healing in some matches when I was testing it. As the healer, if you're playing very far away, it did not do that much healing, about 3% overall. So I would not necessarily recommend this for you as a healer, but if you are a melee DPS playing with other melee DPS and you want some extra haste and to do a bunch of healing for your partner, this is a very good Azerite trait for that situation. Now moving forward to the next new Azerite trait here, we've got the Treacherous Covenant, which gives you a main stat when you are above 50% health. However, there is some drawback that you will take 15% increased damage when you're below 20% health. So if you're a commonly focused target, or you're playing in a composition where you're likely to be the target, this is not something that you necessarily want to really be looking at. But if you're playing a specialization that is not normally targeted, this is something that you can be a bit sneaky with and get away with, turning yourself into a glass cannon of sorts. And I'm definitely going to be trying it out. I think that this Azerite trait is suited when you're playing with 2 casters. So if you're playing a Fire Mage and a Destruction Warlock, if both players run this, one of them gets the guaranteed benefit of this increased intellect while the other doesn't. Or if you know that in a Destruction Warlock Fire Mage, which target is likely to be focused? Probably the Destruction Warlock, as it doesn't move that quickly. So if you know the target on your team for the opponent to hit, that person doesn't run it, but the other person does and is kind of sneaky with it, they can get away with it and get a lot of extra main stats. Now moving into the last Azerite trait here that's coming out, it's called Fight or Flight, and this is a little bit of the same idea but a different implementation. When you damage an enemy below 35% health, or you yourself fall below 35% health, you'll gain 1,000 of a primary stat, 10% movement speed. Now 1,000 of a primary stat is quite a bit if you wanted to try and bait your opponent into them bursting you down, and then you reverse that pressure with that huge wave of whatever it is, intellect, agility, or strength. It could be a cheeky way to kind of battle back when a team is training you heavily. So this would be a recommendation if you're a target that gets trained a lot. you would benefit significantly from this Azerite trait, or if you play a class that can reverse pressure quite quickly. So if you're a rogue and you get bursted down below 35% and then you reverse it with a stun and you get that added intellect or added agility and you just attack back really hard and really fast, this Azerite trait will be suited for that. So now that we've looked at some of the new Azerite traits that are coming here with Season 2 in PvP, the added ring, the more accessibility to these Azerite traits, and a lot more creative combinations that you can really come up with. I'm going to have a lot of exploration with that when the game, or I should say when the patch, I believe it's a patch, goes live. But regardless of that, there are some new trinkets coming. In particular, there are new PvP trinkets, which we actually haven't gotten. I'm trying to remember the last time that we had a new PvP trinket. A new style. We've had the Battle Master for who knows how long and on use and a proc, but we've really never gotten new PvP trinkets in particular. So when we look at these trinkets, we've got the Sinister's Gladiator's Maledict. And after 1.5 seconds, you will launch void energy at the target, whatever that necessarily means, which will deal significant damage and also apply a healing absorb effect for a huge amount of damage. This is effectively an Unholy Death Knight's Necrotic Strike on steroids. It is a incredibly powerful trinket. You want to try to get your hands on this as quickly as possible. And I believe that they will be releasing a schedule to show when you'll be able to get certain pieces of gear every week. So as you may know or may not know, you earn 500 conquest. Next week, you go back here to Mugambala or over to the Alliance counterparts. You loot your chest, you get your random gear, and you can also talk to the quest giver, and it will give you a guaranteed piece of gear. So there's a schedule. So it'll be whatever it is, bracers, Azerite, trinket, whatever. So you'll know when you'll at least be getting that trinket guaranteed, and you'll, I believe, be able to select it amongst all of the other ones. This is a very aggressive trinket, definitely powerful in melee cleaves. It's really powerful in anything. If you've got good crowd control set up and then you launch this right before the healer comes out of crowd control, you soak one of their big heals. This is a heavy outplay trinket, very powerful. I would say almost mandatory in a lot of cases. So keep your eyes out for that. If you manage to get one before the weekly schedule for it to come out, you're definitely lucky. But anyways, moving on to the next one here. Sinister Gladiator's Safeguard, another incredibly potent trinket, and it harkens heavily back to the Zelzak's Veiled Eye days. That was a tanking trinket from the raid Uldir, and quite potent in being able to survive, as it's a similar mechanic to Cauterize or Cheat Death. So when you get hit really hard, it'll save you right at that last second, which obviously is a powerful mechanic to have in general. So having it on this trinket is going to be very useful. So combining the Maledict with the Safeguard is likely to be the combinations of trinkets that I would suggest for most players. But there are a couple of other trinkets that give you quite a lot of main stat and quite a lot of off stat. So if you don't feel you're going to be the main focused target, you can opt to drop this trinket for more of a main stat focused trinket. But regardless, this is a very potent trinket, and it's going to be quite a tough decision when Trinket Week rolls around and you're trying to pick which trinkets you want. I would definitely recommend, if you're playing a Wizard Cleave or more of a composition around surviving and just staying in the fight as long as you possibly can, you're likely going to want to go with the Safeguard. But if you're playing a composition that's hyper-aggressive in the enemy's face all the time, so something with Death Knights and Warriors and Melee Cleaves and maybe Rogue Mage or Hunter compositions, you want to go with the Maledict, and it's really up to defense versus offense. Do you feel your character needs more defense or needs more offense when Trinket Week rolls around to pick it? And if you get lucky enough to get it beforehand, then I hate your guts. But you know what? It's fine. It's fine. You can have the trinket. We won't be that upset. But anyways, moving forward, so the Crest of Paku, very powerful trinket with a lot of haste. I was running this when I was playing Restoration Druid, but you can also run it as Balanced Druid. It was a very potent, just main stat, off stats trinket. However, with the current testing, it seemed like the Sinister's Gladiator Safeguard and Maledict was the kind of MVP trinkets to play with, and some of those new Azerite traits, mixing them in to try and find some new cheeky burst windows. But anyways, that is going to do it for me here in today's video. We've got some new trinkets coming. We've got some new Azerite traits coming. We've got some solutions to the problematic acquisition of Azerite gear on the way as well. So moving forward, I would say that Season 2 looks to be like a much needed improvement from Season 1 overall based on the feedback that was provided, and I'm excited to start Season 2. So thank you all for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.